Universe is not incompatible with Christian faith. The Bible doesn't indicate how long the earth or how old the earth is. Through our natural sciences, we can understand how old the earth is. Okay? That's not incompatible with our faith. Again, this is a byproduct of our evangelical Protestant culture that we have in America that takes Genesis very literally. Very literally. Remember, we went over that? And it's literally 6 days. The earth is only about 6,000 years old based on the timetables that are in there. And for the most part, evangelical Protestants hold to some degree of that or another. I mean, I did when I was an evangelical. So I know from whence this came. But it is a denial of our natural sciences, and it puts the scriptures and science into a conflict that doesn't necessarily need to be there. Because, and I don't want to reveal this because I want to get an answer from you, but hold that thought, Mecca, as we get into the second part. According to Pope Pius XII, how does one read the first 11 chapters of Genesis? How do we read it? Meaning, is it factual, actual, the way that we see it? Is the earth only 6,000 years old? Based on a literal reading of Genesis?
It's metaphor.
It's metaphor. Good. Tell me more about that now.
Well, it used the creation, the fall, the flood, and the tower.
The tower. So they're metaphoric. Does that mean it's mythology?
No.
No. What does it mean?
Is it somewhat allegorical?
It's more than just that. There's another part to this. You're good. These are, according to Pope Pius XII in his encyclical Humani Generis, paragraph 38 and 39, which we read 2 weeks ago. The first 11 chapters of Genesis describe historic events. Okay? You with me? Historic events in a metaphoric way. So that all peoples and all ages could understand the truths. So this goes to your question, Mecca. How do we read the creation account? Is it literally 6 days God created the world? Well, then why is the universe billions of years old? Okay? Because we don't take the first 11 chapters literally. They are metaphoric, but they're not mythological or fables. What they are revealing historical truths about our past, but in a way so that all peoples in all times could understand it. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
The Bible is not giving us a science textbook. It doesn't say, and this is how the Big Bang expanded, and after 10 to the negative 17th nanoseconds, then the formation of fermions occurred, which are the building blocks of atoms, you see, my children. You understand that people in the Middle Ages would haven't a clue as to what I'm talking about. Modern people don't have a clue as to what I just talked about. Do you hear what I'm saying? But what I'm describing is modern cosmology, how modern scientists understand the formation of the cosmos from the Big Bang forward. Do you see what I'm saying? Yep. So the Bible isn't going to describe it in that way. It would make no sense to people, and they would lose the truths of what the sacred scriptures are trying to teach us. All right? So Pope Paul XII, in his encyclical, reminds us that these are historic events. Okay? What are historic events? Well, God created the heavens and the earth. That was a historical event. God created humankind as a direct, immediate creation of himself. That there was an original couple that fell from grace, that God privileged them, and that is the source of all human misery and kind and sin that we have today. You with me? Those are some of the truths of our faith that have been revealed to us by God that we must hold to. Now, how did God form that body? In the Bible it says he formed clay out of the dust of the earth and breathed into it. Okay? If we believe our scientific understanding, our archaeology, there was a progression of creatures that formed over a long period of time that formed the body of humankind. But again, the spirit of man was directly imbued by God. Okay? In a sense, one could argue we came from the dust of the earth over a long period of time. If you think about evolutionary theory, we did come from the clay of the earth. It's just not in the same way as we would think about it in a cartoon or something. You see what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters? Okay? So we're getting into that. I'm just previewing how are we going to approach this. Okay? Because these are big topics that Christians are ridiculed for by being too literalistic about the approach of Genesis. Too literalistic. There are truths here that we accept as historical realities. Okay? But the way that it's told in Genesis, at least the first 11 chapters, is in a way that's metaphoric so that anybody can understand these truths. You don't have to be a scientist. You see what I'm saying? You're all with me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. According to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the first paragraph, what was God's motive for creating the universe and humankind? Anyone remember? Yes. To make a family, yes. What else?
For his glory?
For his glory, yes. What was God's motive for doing this? How was he moved? Love, yes. God was motivated by sheer act of love to share his life and love with his creation. That's what the first paragraph said. Catechism of the Catholic Church, the very first paragraph says, God, out of a sheer act of love, created everything that we see. And it is his same motivation that caused him to redeem it once it fell into sin. And that's the reason why I'm emphasizing this is because this has got to be our guiding principle as we go through the rest of the scriptures. That this God of sheer love was the sole motivation for creating everything that you see. It was this sheer motivation that caused him to send his son to redeem not just humans, although that's a big portion of it, but all the universe that was tainted by this sin. And that's important to bring up because when we get to some of the more difficult passages in the Old Testament, we've got to keep that principle in mind, that this is the God of sheer love and goodness, out of love for his creation, was motivated to do all that we see, both in the Old Testament and the New. Yes?
Yes.
Good. So when we get to some of the more troubling passages, like, why did God create a flood and destroy everyone?
He got mad at us. Right. Well, yeah.
Yes, but there's a motivation out of love for his creation that causes this as well. And I think that we need to look at a large portion of some of these more troubling passages, some of these more anthropomorphized passages in this way. Because there are those that would look at this and say, God was angry. God was punishing the world. God punished the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. God's punitive. God's smacking people across the head. Crashes of thunder and so forth. And that God has this kind of ill temper. He just got fed up with everyone's had come black. And, everyone is drowned in a flood or burned alive in a cataclysm in Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's like, oh, he just gets it out of his system. And it's like, all right, let's try it again. Come on, Abraham, follow me. Oh, you're messing up again. Smack! With plagues on Egypt. You see, I think that is a poor understanding of God. And the reason why I say that is because when we get to the issue of why did Jesus die on the cross, we find that there is a big difference between Reformed evangelical theology on why Christ suffered on the cross and historic Catholic Christian understanding of why Christ had to suffer on the cross. And it has to do with this idea that somehow God is punitive, he's wrathful in the Old Testament, and somehow he gets tempered with Jesus, all nice and loving and sweet and kind. Somehow Jesus kind of tempers the ill-willed Father in heaven. And it's like, no, that's not it at all. It's not it at all. The same God of the New Testament, who so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, is the same God of the Old Testament. And both are a God of love. Sheer love and goodness. And if we forget that, then I think we come up with some of these erroneous ideas about the nature of God and the reason why Jesus had to die on the cross. It's a big issue. It's not a small thing. It's a big issue. And I tried to preview this in our study of the Song of Solomon. If you want to know the heart of God, if you want to know how he feels, if you will, towards his creation, what is this love he has towards all of creation that you're talking about, Chip? What is this motivation of love towards? You read the Song of Solomon. And what do you have there? You have this ardent, young lover pursuing his beloved, and he just gushes with this love for her. That's who God is. That's what you need to circle back to. He's not this mean father up in heaven that's just waiting for you to break one of the commandments and smack you across the face with ill fortune, disease, whatever. You hear what I'm saying? No, that's not God at all. That's not God at all. God of the Scriptures, the God the Father that Jesus talked and preached about, is one of love for his children. He's a father who loves his children. He's not out to smack them. You go, well, how do you explain the flood and all that? We'll get to that. But you have to come with the idea that God is not this ogre up in heaven waiting to hit you over the head with a baseball bat just because you had an impure thought this week. Oh, that's why I lost my car keys. Oh, I had that impure. Oh, I forgot I didn't pray my rosary this morning. That's why everything is falling apart. I'm having one of those bad days. Honey, you have bad days because that's how life is. Just live with it. It's not God getting even with you because you missed your rosary that morning. Do you hear what I'm saying? People have this feeling that God is out to get them. And that's not it at all. He is out to get you like a lover pursuing his beloved. He has such a desire to be with you and for you to share in his love and life and glory that he will do anything it takes to get that through your head, even going to the cross. That's what that is for, is to show you how much he loves, and he will go to no extent to bring you to him. But it's as a lover pursuing someone that he loves so deeply, not as a tyrant father or a judge or a prison warden. Do you hear what I'm saying? This is how we, again, need to approach our scriptures. This is how we need to approach coming to the throne of grace, as it says in Hebrews 4, that we may obtain mercy. Okay? This is not beside our study. This is our study. You understand, my brothers and sisters? Okay? So if I lose anything out of this, I'm going to keep circulating back to this first paragraph of the Catechism. God, out of sheer love, was motivated to do everything that we see. Everything. It's out of love. And we have to have that right view of God. Otherwise, we'll be scared to go to confession. We'll be scared to come to Mass. We'll be scared. And it's like, that's not love. That's not love. It's not love. That's fear. That's exactly it. You're not afraid to go out on a date with the person